For the past month or two, actually, more like 2 months, I've been talking a lot about ChatGPT and how it can help educators and principals and parents. I'm going to use Canva and jump in and ask Canva and both ChatGPT the same prompt to see what it gives us. Now, I'm going to be honest, I haven't used Magic Write in Canva as much as some of you may have used it, but if you are an educator anywhere, at least in the United States, you have access to Canva Pro for free. ChatGPT is free to you. However, if you wanted to have access to Pro, you have to pay $20 a month. Let's jump into both Canva and ChatGPT. We're going to ask it 5 different prompts that are geared towards education and principals to see what it can do for you. Here we are in ChatGPT. Let's jump in, throw in this prompt. And the prompt that I'm actually putting in here is called Write Me a lesson plan using the NGSS standards for grade 3 physical science flight and space. I happen to know which one it is. I don't know the performance expectation by heart, but this is the one that I really enjoy for grade 3. So I figured I'd throw it in there. I typically would say markdowns meaning bolds, headers, bullet points. So it was organized, but we're not going to do that. We're going to see what will happen with this exact same prompt here compared to Canva. Here we go. So here's a lesson plan for grade 3. It does a pretty good job. Let's see, which one did it grab? Okay, flight and space. It gave me 2 different ones. It gave me observations and or measurements of an object's motions to provide evidence that a pattern can be used to predict the future of motion. Ask questions to determine cause and effect the relationships of electric or magnetic interactions between 2 objects not in contact with each other. That's interesting because I know that there is one on flight and space for grade 3, and then it says students will understand the concept of flight and space. And we're going to jump into NGSS to verify this after we try Canva. So let's go over to Canva. Here we are in Canva. I do have Canva Pro. I use the educator account for work, but this one I use, it's my personal one. And now you have Magic Write. Look, it's like being at Disneyland. If you hover over these, you get like a wand, and it's for social media videos. I'm going to go into Docs. I'm going to click it here and then select Docs. And this is what you get. Now, the Magic Write wand used to be on the bottom left, but now it's right in here with this plus. So select that and then select Magic Write. And we're going to throw in the prompt. Same prompt, hit enter. Let's see what happens. And I'll have to say, I'm very curious because I haven't done this one before. So let's see what it did for us. Let's scroll to the top. Let's see which one it provided this time. So it says, same one, it's similar, make observations and or measurements of an object's motion to provide evidence that a pattern can be used to predict future motion. Okay. Ask questions to determine cause and effect relationships of electric or magnetic interactions between 2 objects not in contact with each other. Now, there is something to be said about gravitational pull and electrons in this one, but that, not necessarily something you would talk about in grade 3, but you certainly can integrate it. And if this one added, define a simple design problem that can be solved by applying a scientific ideas about magnetics. Interesting, because now we're talking about physical science and adding the structure and function of something. So now we're talking about the science and engineering practices. And if you look at this structure, it says paper airplanes. Now, I probably should stand corrected. It's probably not flight in space. It's probably more like motion and direction. For grade 3, I have to stand and correct myself on that. So it gives you paper airplanes, a fan, a ruler, a scale, a variety of materials to test for drag. Okay, now we're using some language of the discipline. A variety of materials to test for lift. I'm surprised they didn't add gravity and thrust. There it is. Oh my gosh, I'm glad it showed me because I had a moment of lost that moment. So lift, drag, thrust, and gravity. So at least it's giving you some language of the discipline It's saying divide the class into small groups, use the fan to test each group's paper airplane, have students analyze the results. Here's the assessment, assess student understanding through observations during group work, class discussion, have students write or draw about how airplanes fly. So that's pretty interesting. Now, I want to go back and let's jump into ChatGPT's while we're here. And it's kind of similar, students, except it gives us learning objectives here. And then it gives us materials similar, but it adds balloons, ping pong ball, straws, strings, magnets, batteries, copper wire, aluminum foil. Oh my gosh, scissors, tape. And then an introduction, it talks about the paper airplanes, handout paper, and instruct students to fold it into an airplane. It doesn't give you specifics. It didn't give us specifics in the other one. Interesting. But then it has another activity. So this is interesting. It kind of broadened and created another additional activity. And then it gave 3 activities. Obviously, you won't do this all in one sitting. But what I want to do while we're here is to jump into the next generation science standards and find these 2 standards along with that. So it's grade 3 PS2-2, grade 3 physical science 2-3, and then we have grade 3 physical science 2-4. And what's interesting, I have to say, is both ChatGPT, OpenAI, and Canva Magic Write found the standard. I didn't have to plug it in. So that's interesting. Let's jump over to the next generation science standards. Here's the next generation science standards page. If you ever search for it, it's nextgenscience.org, but we know it as next generation science standards. And we're going to do a search. Happy birthday, NGSS. Woohoo, 10 years. That's interesting. This is where I would normally search, but I like to go forward because it's extra work, and I click search. And now that I'm here, I know that I want grade 3. I know that the discipline is physical science because we said PS, and then I know it's 2. So let's select 2. We know it's 2. I don't think there's any other 2 for physical science. No. So now let's submit this. Actually, there's, I feel obligated to select 2B just in case. So now that we've submitted it, we'll come down here and let's go back and find which standards were here. So we know we had this one, and I'm going to copy it, and you can hit Control-C or Command-C if you're using a Mac. And then I will hit Command-F, and I'm going to now, just so I can search it. And so look, there it is. So we see it immediately. So we see that one. Let's go back here and see see if this is a PS2 and 3. Let's copy this, Command-C or Control-C, and now I'm going to hit Control-V or Command-V. So there it is. It's right underneath it. So I think this one is, here's PS24. So there's a way to, obviously it gives us the ones we want right away, but they're there. So, and I was wrong. I stand corrected. It really, flight and space isn't necessarily there. That's later, but it gives us an idea of what we can do for using these standards. So if I were to click on any of these standards, it's going to give us some blown out information, and it gives us clarification information, so much more if you're an educator in elementary school. And if you are a principal and you want to help teachers really grasp this is where you can go. And I would elaborate on that. There is another video. If you'd like to watch that video, you grab that video, because I go into the next generation science standards with ChatGPT. Let's ask ChatGPT to write us a letter. We're going to start with Canva this time, and ChatGPT, we're going to have it write us a letter for the beginning of the school year. Jump into Docs. And sometimes I notice that Canva isn't as fast as I'd like it to be, but sometimes ChatGPT is too. So let's go in, select Magic Write. We're going to enter our prompt. Welcome to 3rd grade letter to students beginning of the the year 2023, 24. And then I'm telling it, be excited and energetic, be creative in your writing and list where parents can find the California state standards for grade 3. So let's see what happens. Now, I asked it to write, it didn't write the actual website. Notice that. So it says, welcome to 3rd grade. I'm excited to have you in my class this year. We are going to have a lot of fun. And as we begin our journey together, I want to remind you to always be energetic and enthusiastic about learning. Now, I asked it. What I meant by it, I meant Canva. And I'm not going to change this prompt. Let's go over to ChatGPT and see what happens. Same prompt, enter it. This time, I'm going to say that ChatGPT did a little better. The previous one, I'll say that they were about the same. The only difference was Canva added an extra standard. So let's go on to tip number 3. I'm sticking with grade 3, but you can change it to any grade level, and you probably can add a few more things. So this time what I wrote is, I'm a new 3rd grade teacher in Southern California and work in a socioeconomically disadvantaged school environment. Give me some ideas on working with students and allowing them to own their learning through peer-to-peer conversation, standard skills, and integration of content. Let's see what happens. Here we go. It congratulated me on my new teaching job. Love that. Did you see that? So check this out. Right here. Congratulations on your job. Okay, so here's some ideas. Use collaborative learning strategies, provide opportunities for student-led discussion. Love that. Incorporate project-based learning. I would argue problem-based learning. And I would argue activity project-based learning, because if you're just doing a project, they may not be learning. So that's personal. Connect the material to their lives. I would add content, like integrated content, social studies, science through math and ELA. Use technology to facilitate learning. And these are not as, they're broad. Use differentiated instruction, make learning fun. Let's jump over to Canva and see what Canva has to say about this. One of the things you're going to learn, though, is in ChatGPT, you can keep going down and keep asking and pushing ChatGPT. I'm not quite sure that I can do that with Canva yet. So let's click on it. Let's turn on Magic Write right here. Let's throw that prompt in. Let's hit enter. So it gave us some ideas, but look at this. And of course, it wants me to own their own. I should put own learning, because it's just obviously it's so mad at me because of the grammar. Here are some ideas. Use cooperative learning structures, incorporate project-based learning, use technology tools such as online discussions for or blogs to encourage virtual peer-to-peer conversation. That's interesting. Implement student-centered learning, utilize culturally responsive teaching practice. That was different than the other one. So I wonder if I could push ChatGPT here. Add magic. Yes. So let's add something else. Well, let me say this. You could, let's see if it would say, let me just say, can you elaborate on the above information? Let's see if it can. So it says yes, but let me just take that same thing. Let's copy it and go over here and see what it says. And there is something to be said. So do you see how it's elaborating on each area now? It even said think, pair, share. The only thing is that I would have wanted it to elaborate more on these areas, but let's see, for example, it says incorporate project-based learning, and it says project-based learning allows. Let's see if it says, it did change some things a bit, which I kind of appreciate, but I was concerned that it was going to be the same, but it's not. So ChatGPT, you can push a little bit more, where Canva can be a little bit more creative and make it, it looked more appealing, but that doesn't mean I ever want to read it in all caps, because it's hard to do that. Let's jump into the next tip. Here's tip number 4. This is a principal perspective. I'm asking ChatGPT to help me as a principal. How can you help me as a school principal at the high school level in Southern California help teachers with the latest research in education and student ownership of their learning. I would like to create professional development or professional development. What does the California I put CDE there so it knew that I wanted the Department of Education and I wanted California because it would say Colorado, say about curriculum, instruction, and assessments. Now I know what I'm looking for as a former principal, but let's see if it knows. And it does an okay job, but there is something else that I was looking for, and that's a whole nother lesson. But it says give students choice in their learning activities and assessments, provide opportunities for students to reflect on their learning. It actually found the document I was thinking of and it broke it down. You may want to ask ChatGPT to come up with some specific professional development that can happen over an hour or 2 hour time, but this is pretty good. And now let's jump over to, let me make sure I have it. Let's jump over to Canva and see what we can get out of Canva, if we can get the same thing, because I'm always surprised at the differences between the two. And this is, again, I like the way this looks. It's a little bit more appealing, but I will say I like playing with ChatGPT a whole lot too. So let's see what happens. Okay, so I'm going to say that ChatGPT did a better job. And it's because now what it's doing is, and I know it wants me to say their own learning, but it just reiterated what I said, where ChatGPT used its database of information and it did a better job. So something to think about. I'm thinking Canva might be more of a creative piece that helps you get organized with your creative instruction. So let's go on to tip number 5. Here's tip number 5. I'm asking ChatGPT from a principal's perspective. It could be for a teacher's perspective, from a teacher's perspective too. Create a presentation according to John Hattie's Visible Learning for Teachers. Just hit enter. Here's the presentation. And of course, you know that you could go and you'd have to create the presentation in either presentation on Google or PowerPoint, or create this presentation on in Canva on your own. But let's jump into Canva and see what happens when we create the presentation using presentations. So I'm in Canva and I'm using Canva presentations. And I want to see, so it gives you magic design right here. So let's click on it. Now I noticed that this only allows me 100 characters. I've used 78 of them. So let's say it says create a presentation. Now this is a little different because ChatGPT, it gives you text, it gives you an outline. It was a very nice outline, where Canva now is giving us some templates to look at. And we can usually choose a number of different types of templates depending on what your style is. And it's pulling from its own database at this point. And I'm not quite sure which one I'm going to go with. It says see more, even though I almost want to pick the plain ones. It's the patterns. I'm going to go with, let's go with this one and create the presentation. Now, I can tell you right now, I don't like that photo because it's very old, centered classrooms in rows. But I guess what we could do is tweak it a little bit with other pictures. So it gives you visible learning. Obviously that this would probably need to be smaller. You'd have to adjust that. It says visible learning is evident. I would have to do some adjustments here, and I'm aware of that. But I'm just going to just quickly show you that I do not like that photo. I'm just going to put 21st century classroom cafe, just for my, you know, I might want to change it, you know, or classroom. Let me just get rid of cafe to see, because let's see what happens. see these, so some of these class, so this makes me happier, like they're in center. So you could tweak it, but it created this presentation for me where if we go back to ChatGPT, it just gave me an outline, but it did give me all of the top 10 influences on student achievement according to Hattie's research, and these are those effect sizes. So something to be said about that. I could probably use these in together and integrate the two by taking this information and going over to Canva and then throwing that in there. So those are just the 5 tips that I wanted to show you. Here's the next tip. We're going to ask ChatGPT to create a syllabus for us for chemistry using the Pearson chemistry book for high school. I also asked it to add research papers, lab ideas with the reading for each chapter. Let's see what happens. Now, it didn't give me the reading pages, so I probably would say add the reading pages, but we're going to see if Canva will do that. So it's rewriting it. Add the page numbers for the reading. I probably should have been more specific. So, and it's really confused. So that's interesting. That is very interesting. For each chapter, add the reading assignment. It should fix, it really should. Okay, there it is. But it should have put it in the syllabus. And I know that I can push it a little bit. And it did, this time it did. But just know that I knew what I wanted to ask it, but sometimes it doesn't work. So let's jump over to Canva, right? Jump into Magic Write. We're going to paste that in there. I put the reading. Now I'm going to just put pages for each chapter. Let's see if it'll do it, because I'm curious. I like how appealing the document looks when I enter it here. Oh, it did an okay job. It just has lab ideas. We probably would want to push it a little bit. I'm going to say that ChatGPT probably is better, but it certainly gets you started, because you probably would want to add extra the assessment in there, the actual book. There's so much more, but this, if you're not sure how to write a syllabus, this would give you an idea of what that could look like, at least to get things started with parents and their children. There are a lot of ways you can use Canva and ChatGPT. You can integrate them. You can use them separately. You can, Canva is very appealing to look at. ChatGPT, it can give you a lot more information. Even though I was surprised at that very first one with the Next Generation Science lesson plan, where Canva gave me 3 standards. The truth is that you probably should work on one standard at a time and blow that out and work on the skills and integrate the content. Thank you so much for listening. Have fun with these 5 tips. Come back, follow or subscribe, like this video, comment. Let me know what you're doing with ChatGPT and now Canva, Magic Write, and come back and watch some more videos. Go to the introduction of ChatGPT. You are not going to learn if you don't try. Try, jump in, play with it. You can't break it. It's on the web. You might as well have fun. Thank you so much for watching.